Hi guys, and welcome in this new video. During this video, we are going to explore how to import data from Quandl. Quandl, it's another data source, different from Pandas data reader. But about the scheme gonna be very similar in order to get our data. At the end, we will be able to see some added value that Quandl can bring you. Okay. Now, enough talking, and let's get started. We are going to start by importing our raw packages. We're gonna type import packages, as usual. Now, let's start with our raw packages. So import numpy as np, import pandas as pd, and concerning data visualization, we are going to import plotly.graphObject as go. Let's execute. Once it's upload, we are going to import our data source packages. In order to do so, we will call this line data source package. So what you are going to type is import Quandl, execute. And before to do any move, the best way to do is to set up your API key. So I'm gonna type API, that's the second step. I already execute this line with my key API. What you are going to do, you will have to go on Quandl, set up an account, ask for an API key, and once you have your API key, just enter your API key, for example, blah, blah, blah. That's gonna be your API key. That's gonna be around 20 characters, which will be a mix between letters and numbers. So once you have your API key, you're just gonna have to copy and paste your API key inside this field. And we are going to set our API key with Quandl. Essentially, with this line, what you are going to do, you are going to contact Quandl database and identify yourself to Quandl through your API key. So what you have to do is quandl.api config.api key, which will be equal to your API key that you had set up just right here. Contact with Quandl database. Okay, let's query our API key. Once you imported your package and the API key is set up, we can start by querying data. Okay, let's set a new title for this new part. Query data. We are going to start similarly as Pandas data reader, essentially by setting a start date, which will be equal to pd dot to date time, and you set the date that you want, for example 2012 0101, and concerning the end date, similarly you have to do pd dot to date time and set up a final date. I will set up as, let's say, 25 of May 2020. Okay, and now we are going to ask and to query into Quandl database our first data. Okay, In order to do so, you have to type df, you have to set it in a data frame, and to query Quandl .get. And if you type Shift+Enter, you can have the description of the different parameters that you are going to set, and description of the Quandl function. Okay, as you can see here, the first argument will be the dataset that you want. We will here in this case study analyze Google action. What you are going to do is wiki/gool. That's gonna be the key for Google shares. In order to have all the keys, you have to go on Quandl, type the type of share that you want, and you can get, for example, if you want Amazon, you have just to type AMZN. Wiki is the main data provider for Quandl, but as you can see, as you will be able to be, see at the end of the video, you can query different type of data, which can be commodities, and the code gonna be different. You can have real estate data, for instance, and the code gonna be different as well. Yeah, that's why right here I'm using wiki. Wiki gonna refer to the database, which gonna provide you all the different shares concerning the company that you are targeting. Okay, here we are going to target Google. Okay, as the first argument will be the start date, which will be equal to start, and the second argument gonna be the end date, which will be equal to end. Start and end have been set up just before. Let's execute and let's print our data frame. Here, as you can see, we have even more data by contrast to Pandas data reader. Here, as you can see, we have even more data if we compare to Pandas data reader. We have the dividend, we have the split ratio, we have the adjunct open, adjunct height, adjunct low, adjunct close, and adjunct volume. Okay, let's continue in this way. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to learn how we can download different type of data. For instance, if you are interested to trade on commodities, for example, gold, let's type commodities. The pathway gonna be exactly the same. You're gonna have to set your data in a data frame, let's say df gold, in order to refer to the gold. But instead of asking wiki/gold, in order to have commodities, that will be LBMA/gold. You will have your start date, your end date, that doesn't change. You will execute, and we are going to print our data frame. Yeah, and here, as you can see, you have the gold price following the different currencies. You can have USD, you can have GBP or Euro. And we can, for instance, we can quickly plug this data in order to follow the gold evolution over time. I'm not gonna go into details of our Plotly. I'm just gonna make a copy and paste of a normal Plotly graph. But again, I will talk about methodology, but that's the same figure declaration. Then adding truth, adding updates, and asking Plotly to show. Okay. Okay, that's raising an error. USD AM. Okay, that's coming from the data frame name. What we're going to do is set up the right name. It's df gold, that's true. df gold, and df gold. And now this must be good. Yeah. And here up, let's add a name which we are going to call USD, and here set up a name which we are going to call GBP. Here, and as you can see here, you have the gold price following USD. It's very easy to see the trend of the gold price. And if you can notice, since the beginning of the coronavirus, the gold price has a trend which is going to the high, which makes sense. And even if we extend our deadline, we will be able to notice another jump after the 2007 crisis. It's very normal behavior in this period. But yeah, if we focus mainly since the beginning of, since February, as you can see, the price jumped from 1,500 USD to 1,700. Okay. Now you learn the second option, which is available with Quandl, which means downloading commodities. And before to conclude this video, I want to spotlight with you a last advantage to use Quandl. And this advantage is to be able to download real estate data. In order to do so, we are going to set up a new section that we will call real estate data. Let's put your skin in the life of an investor if you want to diversify your portfolio and invest in real estate products. Okay, so now what we will do, we'll need our code in order to have the price of our real estate. Okay, in order to do so, we will connect to Quandl and we will type real estate, research. One of the most reliable provider is called Zillow Real Estate. Zillow Real Estate will provide you different price on rental price or the price of different houses in the US. That's gonna be only focused on the US. For example, if you search in Paris or in London, you will not find any data. Here what we are going to do, we are going to compare rental price in different boroughs in New York. For instance, we're gonna type New York studio rent. We can, for instance, compare price in Midtown Manhattan and Harlem. Okay, what we will need, that's gonna be the Quandl code. I'll type copy and we will paste it here. We are going to call this variable Midtown. Once we have Midtown data, we are going to query data for Harlem. And what we will need, that's if you want the price in order to rent the studio in Harlem, we need the Quandl code. You have two ways to get the Quandl code. Either you click on it and you get it from the main page, otherwise you can just find the code right here. Let's go. Let's paste the Quandl code inside. Let's execute. And for example, right now, if you type Harlem, you can have the rental price for a studio evolution from the 31st January 2012 until the 30th of September 2018. And for instance, what we are going to do right now is to compare the price evolution between Harlem and Manhattan in order to have a view about which type of products in order to have a view about which type of products have the highest chance to see an increase. Let's say you're an investor, you are thinking of investing and buying different properties inside New York. You have a questioning about if you should invest in Harlem or in Manhattan, in Midtown Manhattan. Let's plug this graph. Here I'm not gonna focus on Plotly. I believe you are able to plug this type of data. Okay, what we are going to do here, just add a title here. That's gonna be the data for New York Midtown, and here that's gonna be the data for New York Harlem. Okay, what we can see here, the best time to invest in Manhattan would be in 2014. If you invest here and you predict to rent your studio for $2,500, the real estate price exploded during this period, which means you are able to make a lot of money. But if we just focus on the current trend, let's say we are going to take the 3 last years. As you can see, if we focus only on the 3 last years, we can see that the rental price, let's say you bought your apartment in October 2015 in Harlem, it was 1,600 and now that's 1,850. That's an increase of almost 10% in terms of rental price. But if we compare to Manhattan in Midtown, what you can see, we can notice that the rental price for a studio have a trend which is going down, which means that if you are preparing yourself to get a rent of around 3,000, the current trend is not going to be higher, which means as an investor perspective, that would be more interesting to invest in 2 or 3 apartments in Harlem. Indeed, here we just have the rental price, just in order to get a trend about how the market is evolving. This type of prices and this evolution can be very understandable because people tend to live in suburb areas of New York because New York is an attractive city, mainly after the financial crisis where the economy seen a boom, and the rental price in New York is following the same trend. If we're going overall, as you can see, since 2012, the rental price increased, and the global trend is going to the highest. But again, if we focus during only the last years, the trend is going to the down. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how to get data from Quandl. I advise you to go and to check more about data from Quandl because the number of possibilities is tremendous, is massive. You have different type of data, you have different financial data, you can get data about cryptocurrencies, you can have economic data from Bank of England, from the European Central Bank, for the Federal Reserve. Quandl is very massive database with a lot of opportunities. Now I just let you free to get curious about what type of data interests you. You can cross the data with the market. For instance, that would be interesting here to plot the S&P 500 with these two different traces. But that let you free to explore, and I hope you understand the scheme, which is to first of all enter your Quandl code, and in a second time your start date and your end date in order to get your data.